When I got asked to come for this opening to share about my insights on my career, I sat down and started thinking about the element that could have influenced in a way my career. And while doing that exercise, one particular story came to my mind and surfaced in my head. When I was 6 years old, my parents sent me to a summer camp. It was my first. All what I had was a large backpack that my parents prepared for me. I was completely out of my comfort zone in a forest with people I never met before. That particular experience has been full of peak moments, like moments of joy, excitement, but also a lot of fear, I admit. We did that for many years, like we repeated the experience almost every summer for a couple of years. And I strongly believe that these experiences shaped my personality today. It strongly influenced the way how I behave, but also crafted my thirst for adventure and my need for continuous learning. Luckily, during the exercise, more things came to my mind, so it's not only that memory that I'm coming to share with you, and that's why I'm here to share the tips that I believe could also benefit for your career as well. Over the last 15 years, I worked in many companies, and I also touched many products like Skype, Spotify, Google Meet, Google Chrome. And if I ask how many of you used one of these products over the last week, I'm pretty sure we're close to 100%. Like, I feel honored, of course, about that, but also I see it as a result of a vision I had for myself quite early on. Of course, I did not envision it exactly as it is today, but I had a goal, and my goal was to learn from the best in a continuous way. Even early on, I couldn't see myself staying in the same company for 15 years. I had to try many things in order to have the choice to decide what do I like and what do I don't like. And that's how it ended to be, at least for now. So similar to the number of products I've been touching over the last 15 years, I compiled a list of 5 tips for you today. Tip number 1, shoot for the moon. Always shoot for the moon. In order to better explain this tip with you, I want to start with explaining how things started for me. 15 years ago, I got graduated from electrical engineering school in France. It was a great degree from a prestigious school, but I grew up in an environment that always pushed I've been pushed to do things till the end. And for studies, that just meant for me that I needed to do a PhD after my engineer degree. So I was not sure if I wanted to do a PhD for academia or I wanted to do a PhD for applied research in industry. So I applied for an industrial PhD, meaning that I was most of the time at Alcatel-Lucent, Bell Labs, the research center, and my PhD was supervised by the University of Paris. So during my PhD time, I got to travel the world to go and present my research in many conferences. And during those events, I get to meet many students. And while speaking with these students, I realized that if I wanted my PhD to open up doors for big international organizations, I had to add an international element to my educational background. Like, most of my education has been in France, in French, and if I wanted my degree to be well perceived internationally, I needed to add something international into it. So I made my research into that and found out something called exchange program, PhD exchange program. It's like you have a PhD student from a university and that goes to another university and spend a couple of time there, a bit like an internship. But during that research, while learning about that process, I also realized that there is no official process to apply for it. So what I did, I just went through direct application. And guess who did I apply at first to? I applied to the engineering department at Stanford. Straight. It just happened that I met the head of department of Stanford a couple of weeks before, Ben Giro, in a conference, and I was hoping that he will remember me. So I sent him an email, say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do with you. So is there a spot for me at Stanford? 4 weeks later, I received an answer from Benjiro. It was amazing that I received an answer from him. And he said, yes, we would like to have you. But it's Stanford, so you have to pay for fees. It was very high fees. I remember it was $30K at the time for the internship. So despite my effort to get my company sponsor that, it was too high. I really wanted to do that exchange program, so I didn't want to stop there. At the same time, I didn't want to reduce the prestige of the university I wanted to be part of. So I applied for UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. But I did it in a complete different strategy this way. This is how I did it. I was at that time about to publish a new research paper. I sent a draft to the head of department of UCLA and said, look, I'm writing this research paper. Would you like to review it for me? And I would like to offer you a co-author spot in my paper. Like it's a common habit that we do in research. You review my paper, you'll be co-author. Just simple. And as soon as we start getting deeper in the discussions, I mentioned to her, hey, Mihaela, I want to be at UCLA for an exchange program. Since we already built some kind of relationship, she accepted. And I've been offered to do a 6-month internship or exchange program at UCLA for free. Of course, I had to pay for the accommodation for the travel, and that's another story. Like I sit with my manager and said, look, this is going to be a great long-term collaboration with UCLA. I mean, I crafted it as a business opportunity for them, not only for me. And it did work, and I've been there for 6 months at the end. I strongly believe that being there and adding that part into my resume has been a big boost for the next step of my career. There's been a very old, by the way, study done by HP. It was an internal study that compared how women versus men apply for a job or for a promotion. And the results are incredible. The study showed that in order for women to apply for a job or for a promotion, she needed 100% of the qualification to be met. For men, 60% was enough. It's a huge difference. We women tend to try to see if we're meeting the requirement 100% versus 60% for men. So the reason why I'm telling the story behind my PhD is to show that you don't necessarily have to be the best to apply for the best. All what you need is to give up a bit and let go your perfectionism and increase your confidence level. By trying, you can, of course, shoot for the moon. Worst case, you land among the stars. Tip number 2. Keep doors opening, or keep doors open. I've been in research for about 5 years, like 3 years as a PhD student and 2 years as a research engineer. And one day, I received a call from a Microsoft recruiter. He offered me a job for a role called product manager in Sweden at Skype. I had no idea what product management was 12 years ago, and I had no intention to move to Sweden from France, but I took the call. I even went through the process. It was a very long process. Believe me, 5 iterations, more than 9 interviews in total. But the more we talked about the role, the more I started to like it, until we get to a level where I get an acceptance letter. So I'm telling this story because I was almost 100% sure that I won't go in the beginning. And I ended up getting the offer. We live in a very dynamic professional world today. Look around, thousands of people are let go in the IT world, even by the most prestigious company. Nothing is secure, so we need to secure our career ourselves. How can you do that? I personally take every recruiter call. I explore every opportunity, job opportunity given to me, even if it doesn't look very sexy or very great from the beginning. we need to practice the interview muscle continuously. Believe me, there is nothing worse than you have to do an interview while you haven't done it for more than 10 years. It's very, very hard. So that's why every time I see a recruiter reaching out, I take it as an opportunity for practice. Like people are paying today to have like some mock interviews and practice. So if you have a recruiter reaching out, take it as an opportunity for you. The second huge advantage, I really call it a huge advantage for doing such a habit or such a practice, is that it helps you master the negotiation skill. It's an art. I would call it the art of negotiation. A professor and the author of Women in Management, Marlene Davidson, did a very interesting study. I would love to share it with you today. She kept interviewing and asking her students for 7 years in a row. And she asked them the following simple question. How much do you think you would deserve as a salary 5 years after being graduated? She asked girls and boys the same question. And the results are phenomenal. It's crazy. She realized that over those 7 years was exactly almost the same difference. For men, they believed that they deserve 80K 5 years after being graduated. For girls, it was 64K. I'm talking about people studying. They are not even at the work field yet. It's a level of confidence that gives men 80K and women 64, almost 20% difference. When I was at my research position, like I was already in a very stable position, full-time engineer, research engineer at Bell Labs, I was in a good position to be able to negotiate. I was kind of okay with the risk that I will even miss the offer. So I negotiated like crazy, honestly. Like I negotiated the salary, the stocks, the benefits, the bonus, the flexibility, anything that came to my mind, I was able to negotiate. Luckily, I get very close to what I asked for. But because I was taking the risk for doing it, and because I was in a good position to accept the risk as well. So I'm telling this story because everyone can negotiate, but in order to do it well, you need to keep doors open. You need to talk to any recruiter who reach out to you. By the way, the best opportunities come when we are not looking for them. And the second thing is the practice. By the way, it's a skill. Negotiation is a skill. And by doing it more and more and failing in some of them, you realize what's negotiable and what's not negotiable. Tip number 3, drive your career. In 2017, I've been a product manager at Skype. I received an offer from Spotify. Again, I've been in a stable position, but let's admit, working at Spotify at that time was a dream for me. I really wanted to be part of Spotify, especially I've been in Sweden, so we hear about Spotify almost everywhere in Sweden. And since I gave you the advice to always keep doors open, I went through the interview, of course. But here's the fun part of my story. At that time, I was pregnant. I was expecting my second. A huge piece of me was telling, hey, hold on. It's not the best time to change career now. You have something else coming. And another piece of me was, look, this is something you always wanted. It's your dream place. Go and check it out. Maybe it will work. And guess what? I did most of the interview process as a 7-month pregnant woman. And I got my day 1 at Spotify as my day 1 9-month pregnancy. I started at Spotify. My day 1 was at 9-month pregnancy. I'm saying, oh, thank you. I'm saying this story because I had all the excuses not to do it, believe me. But I'm so grateful for my courage at that time. But also I'm so grateful for the support I got from Spotify. They saw the situation was not that easy. They didn't, of course, adjust the interview for me, but I got my parental leave, I got a smooth onboarding. They just made it as easy as possible for me because it was scary. Yes, when you're expecting, the worst thing they could do is change career. So for me, Spotify has been more than a company. It's been an institution. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Spotify. And the thing I learned most was the concept of growth mindset. It's not a buzzword that we hear or read about it. It comes with applicable tips. And the tip that I learned most from Spotify is to value feedback, value receiving and giving feedback. So at Spotify, we had the habit to always ask coworkers, colleagues, stakeholders to give us feedback about ourselves. So every trimester, I will send 3 to 4 emails to my colleague, and I would ask them, hey, what do you think I did great over the last couple of months? And what do you think I could do better or more to help you and help myself? I'm pretty sure you all did it. So you're asking, why are you telling me to do so? Here's the beauty. You're not doing it for your manager. You're not doing it for your promotion. You're not doing it for your development talk. You're doing it only for yourself. By the way, at Spotify, there is no bonus. I was surprised in the beginning, but then I quickly realized that it's on purpose because leaders at Spotify trust that employees are hired to do their best anyway. They don't need a carrot for that. They're well paid for it already. There is no need for competition by creating bonus, etc. So when you get feedback for yourself and you don't have to share it with your manager, like I've done it in other companies, and the tools usually, like your manager initiate a request to ask feedback for you and they get the feedback on your behalf. These feedback are not honest. But if it's only for you, for your unique purpose of growth, it becomes suddenly gold. So I usually would collect this feedback, put it in a spreadsheet, structured into these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, this is I want to work on, this is maybe I'm not that interested into it. And then I would even add things about my self-assessment, like this is what I believe I'm good at, and compare it to what others think I'm good at, and see the differences, which is very interesting exercise, by the way. See what my manager believes I'm good at versus what my colleagues are doing. This is what we call usually the 360 feedback. And you're doing that continuously throughout the year. Imagine you have that benefit 12-month year, seeing what you're good at, seeing what you need to improve. Even when I left Spotify, I kept doing that habit. Like at Google, we have a different system of collecting feedback. It's usually the manager who collects the feedback for you. But I kept doing that because I strongly believe that habit really shaped my career in a way or another. And I have a specific strategy about how I deal with feedback. I only focus on strengths. I don't care that much about weaknesses. I know we all have been told at a moment or another that we need to focus and work on our weaknesses. I mean, in theory, it makes sense, but in reality, it all ends in here. You're just working against your instinct. But if you work on things that you're already good at, that brings you joy, energy, excitement. I remember at school, some people are good at math, others good at arts, at science. I hated history. Sorry about that. Like, all what I wanted at that time was to, during the exam, meet the requirement, get it done, and never have to touch it again. Imagine you have to do that the same at work. If you double down on things you're good at, that brings you joy, because we are good at what we like, and we like what we are good at. So I always focus on my strengths and not too much on the weaknesses. Tip number 4, build your community. So in 2020, COVID hits. And what happened in the video conferencing tool industry, they all realized that there is a huge need to adjust the video conferencing tool to the working from home environment. Like we move it from using Meet and Zoom and Teams from the office to 100% using it from home. And most of those companies realize that there is a big need to adjust like features like adding background replace, noise cancellation, etc. So that was the time when I got offered to become a product manager at Google, and my first product there has been Google Meet. Of course, I'm not going to detail you how heavy it was to go through the PM interview process at Google, but I want to detail something that really fascinated me as soon as I started in Google. I got fascinated by how much Google empowers and encourages Googlers, that's how we call each other there, to join, build, and drive communities that allows them to feel more belonged. So it's very important to feel belonged through communities. And as a product manager, we feel quite often very lonely. Like engineers often work in team and designers often critique each other's work. PM spend hours a day in meetings, but at the end of the day, we realize that we are quite lonely because we have heavy responsibility that is not very much shared. So I used this encouragement from Google to join as many communities as I could. I've been able to join PM book clubs, PM lean coffees, and as many communities as I could find within the PM field. And one particular thing that really helped me throughout my journey at Google was something called PM Coaching and Mentoring Program. So it's a program that is from Googler to Googler, where Googler can coach and mentor other Googlers based on their expertise and their skills. By the way, let's start by defining the difference between what's a coach versus what's a mentor. I love doing this difference. So usually a coach is a person that talks with you in order to unlock your potential through some structured discussion. A mentor is a person that talks to you in order to share his or her expertise and experience. So it's expected to get from a mentor advice, but it's expected from a coach to get some structure. I've got lucky enough to get both mentored and coached by senior Googlers, and I strongly believe that those shaped first increasing my skills in my career, but also helped me open up my mind and build to myself the things that I value most, and understand what do I want to focus more versus what do I want to drop. So being part of community is great, but you may ask, how did that benefit my career personally? I would list 3 things. Number 1, it increased incredibly my network, increased my size of network. And to be honest, when you are in your early career, the impact of your network in finding a job is usually around 20% versus 80% for your skills. But as you grow, starting from mid-career to late career, things shift. Your network will help you get your next job by 80%, and only 20% will be thanks to your skills. So working on increasing your network should be a goal. We are all working toward it. Advantage number 2, of course, it helped me improve or level up my skills, especially the leadership skills, like becoming a better communicator, becoming a better leader. By the way, I quickly stepped away from consuming the available communities into building my own. I moved from being coached to coach other PM myself, both internally but also externally. And I even initiated an event called PM Speaker Series at Google, where we invited external insider, I would say, or expert, to come and share their insight on a monthly basis at Google. So by doing such initiatives, it increased, of course, a lot the leadership skills that we are expecting. And number 3, I would say, as a benefit, it increases visibility a lot as well. By the example of PM Speaker Series event that I was driving, I became the go-to person. I became the person that people would reach out to if they have suggestions or feedback. And I've been asked to have some newsletter and some weekly report about what we did. So, you increase your visibility within the organization, and then suddenly people will reach out to you for other opportunities as well. So, building community is extremely rewarding. I'm getting to tip number 5, and it's my last tip if the clicker works. Okay. Keep space for your passion. I think it's one of the hardest, but I still believe it's one of the most important one. I'm passionate about public speaking, but it started small. It started quite small. So when I was a researcher, I told you I traveled the world to present my research work in many research conferences. But when I shifted to product management, I just stopped it completely. I completely focused on becoming a better PM, on my daily work, and I stepped away from the stage. And soon, very soon, I realized I missed it. I missed it a lot. I missed the benefits from being on stage, the networking part, the learning part, the growth part. But going back to it after a long break was very, very, very hard. I mean, from a stress perspective, I couldn't see myself coming back after a long break. But guess what? When COVID happened, which is supposed to be a very bad thing for humanity, for me, it just happened to be a great thing for my public speaking journey. Because my first gigs right after a long break has been speaking at big and large remote conferences. And for me was blessing because all what I had to do was to focus on the content rather than the stage, the audience, the stress that comes out of that. And then when all conferences came back to physical, of course I get invited again on stage, and it was much more straightforward, much more easier for me after all the remote practice that did happen. And so, with my passion for public speaking, together with my engagement in community, that allowed me to take a very big decision. I decided early this year to completely focus on things that makes me happy. I wanted to do more of things that makes me happy. I decided to leave Google 2 months ago in order to become a full-time speaker, product coach, and mentor. And this is already bringing me a lot of joy and excitement because it's not an easy decision. Believe me, emotionally, it was very hard. Like building an entire career and then decide to leave was not emotionally easy. However, it was one of the unique decisions I made in my life that is fully driven by passion. So finding your passion is extremely important. It sounds difficult, but it comes when you open up yourself to new opportunities, extend your comfort zone, get out of it if needed. You need to try new things in order to realize whether you like this new opportunity or not. If you find your passion, maintain it, do more of it, and stick to it. It's extremely rewarding. So I'm getting to the summary slide, and this is the last slide. I hope you can use some of these tips as well in your career, but I want you to reflect today on the following. Are you ambitious enough? Are you opening doors and allowing yourself to explore all the opportunities that are given to you? Are you practicing? Do you drive your career? Do you learn continuously? Are you collecting feedback about yourself in order to understand what you're good at or what you should improve? How much time are you allocating for being part of community? This is already great that we're all here today. It's a great step. But how can you do more of that? And what's your passion? How can you do more of your passion? And how can you help yourself live from your passion as well? Thank you for listening to me. I would love to chat with you and help. How can I lift up your career?